In the history of human innovation, there is a distinct line drawn between the merchant and the creator. The merchant invents to sell, the creator invents to solve. No one embodies the tragedy of the pure creator more than Nikola Tesla. When we think of genius, we often think of Einstein writing equations or Da Vinci sketching anatomy. But Tesla's mind operated on a level that borders on the supernatural. He did not use blueprints. He did not build prototypes to see if they worked. He possessed a psychological capability known as cerebral simulation. He could build a complex machine, like an electric motor, entirely inside his imagination. He could run it in his mind for weeks, check it for wear and tear, and then build it in reality. And it would fit to the thousandth of an inch exactly as he envisioned. This is a terrifying level of intellect. It is the mind of a god. But there is a cruel irony to this gift. Because Tesla lived so completely inside his own head, in a world of perfect, clean, ideal energy, he was almost incapable of surviving in the real world of dirty money, contracts, and greed. He looked at the world and saw energy. The men around him looked at the world and saw profit. This disconnect is why the man who gave us the 20th century spent the end of his life not in a palace, but in a small hotel room, talking to birds. To understand Tesla, we must understand the solitude of invention. He teaches us that the ability to see the future is a burden if you do not understand the economics of the present. The conflict of his life is best summarized by the war of currents. On one side was Thomas Edison, the ultimate merchant. Edison was not a mathematician. He was a brute force experimenter who hired people to do the math for him. He favored direct current, DC, because he owned the patents and the infrastructure. On the other side was Tesla, the immigrant visionary who arrived in America with 4 cents in his pocket. Tesla knew mathematically that alternating current, AC, was superior. It could travel hundreds of miles without losing power, while Edison's DC could barely travel a mile. The Motivationairy lesson here is about the psychology of resistance. Tesla was right. The laws of physics were on his side. But being right wasn't enough. Edison launched a smear campaign, electrocuting animals in public to prove that AC was dangerous. He played on the public's fear. Tesla, naive to the dark arts of public relations, couldn't understand why the world wouldn't just accept the superior technology. He believed that the truth was self-evident. He didn't realize that in the marketplace, the truth is a product that must be sold. He eventually won the war. AC powers the world today. But the battle drained him. It was the first crack in his idealism. It taught him that a great idea is defenseless without a great strategy. Then came the moment that sealed his financial fate. It is perhaps the most expensive act of kindness in history. Tesla had signed a contract with George Westinghouse, the businessman backing AC power. The contract gave Tesla a generous royalty, $2.50 for every horsepower of electricity sold. As AC power began to take over the world, this contract was poised to make Tesla the world's first billionaire, far richer than Rockefeller or Morgan. But Westinghouse got into financial trouble. His investors pressured him to cut costs, or the company would go under. Westinghouse pleaded with Tesla. He told him that if he didn't relinquish the royalties, the company would fail, and Edison would win. Tesla, looking at the man who had believed in him when no one else did, tore up the contract. He walked away from approximately $12 million in 1890s money, hundreds of millions today, to save his friend's company. Psychologically, this is a beautiful act of loyalty. But economically, it was suicide. Tesla believed he would just invent something else to make money. He underestimated the capital required to change the world. By rejecting the money, he stripped himself of the power to fund his future visions. He became a beggar for the rest of his life, constantly pleading with investors for scraps of funding. This is the hard lesson. Money is not evil. Money is fuel. By rejecting the fuel, Tesla stalled his own engine. The final tragedy was Wardenclyffe. In the early 1900s, Tesla had a vision so advanced we are still trying to catch up to it, a global wireless transmission tower. He told his investor, J.P. Morgan, that it was for radio. But Tesla's secret goal was to transmit power wirelessly. He wanted to give the entire Earth free, unlimited electricity by tapping into the planet's own resonant frequency. He saw a world where you could stick a rod in the ground anywhere, in the desert, in the jungle, and have power. When Morgan found out, he asked a simple, chilling question. If anyone can draw on the power, where do I put the meter? Morgan was a banker. He didn't care about humanity. He cared about billing. Since he couldn't meter wireless energy, he cut Tesla's funding. They dynamited the tower for scrap metal. This broke Tesla's spirit. He realized that the world was not limited by technology, but by greed. He had the keys to utopia, but the landlords wouldn't let him open the door. Tesla spent his final decades in the Hotel New Yorker, room 3327. He became a recluse. His brilliant mind, with no machine to build, turned inward. He developed severe OCD. He became obsessed with the number 3. He demanded 18 napkins at every meal, and he fell in love with pigeons. He famously said of a specific white pigeon, "I loved that pigeon as a man loves a woman, and she loved me." It is easy to mock this as insanity. But it is perhaps a sign of a heart that had nowhere else to go. He had sacrificed a wife, a family, and a home for his work, and the world had taken his work and left him with nothing. He died alone in 1943. The FBI immediately seized his papers, classifying them, fueling conspiracy theories that last to this day. So, what is the Motivationairy takeaway? Tesla teaches us the necessity of balance. We need the vision of the creator, but we need the pragmatism of the merchant. Ideas do not survive on their own merit. They survive because someone builds a fortress of capital around them to protect them. Tesla wanted to save the world, but he forgot to save himself. To change the world, you must first ensure you have the resources to endure it. Be a visionary, yes, but do not tear up the contract.